And I think we're live, and hopefully everything is working. It looks like I have sound going through and all that kind of stuff. So that's all good. And I'm just going to give everyone a little bit of time to connect and stuff like that.
All good. And
So that's all.
I'm just gonna give everyone a little bit of time to connect.
Let's see here.
Good. And so that's all. Give everyone.
Oh, I have some sound going on here.
Let's see here.
Oh my god, this is. Oh, it was back feeding. There we go. Okay, cool. Yes, sorry, that was I was messing around with some stuff. Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. Today's stream is going to be about the following that you're seeing on the screen right now. Those are the goals for today's stream. We're going to have a little discussion about feedback in general. And then after we have that discussion, we're going to move into actually giving some feedback to some of the stuff that you guys posted in on the Discord. Right, there's a few people who post some stuff, and I just want to give some general feedback and stuff like that. But I think it's important first to have a discussion about feedback, because actually I'm super passionate about feedback and the way you give feedback and the way you receive feedback. And hopefully there'll be something there for everyone to take home with you, so you know, that kind of stuff. So that's hopefully going to be all good. And I see there's some people in the chat and stuff like this. That's great. If you're new to these streams, then basically they go on for something like I don't know, 2 to 3 hours. I'm gonna try to hit the 2-hour mark today, and there will be a break, 5-minute break at some point, probably on the 1-hour mark. Usually it shifts around, so just if somebody needs to go pee or anything like that. I want to shout out some different stuff. I guess I want to shout out the people in the chat. I can see that Shadon Vass writes, hello there, hello to you, sir. Open is back. Hey man, nice to see you here. Tajikistan, Central Asia. Awesomeness. Levicious, hi, hello. I'm assuming Danish. If it's a hi, then probably. And we got Henrik Urman. Is that how you say it? Urman. Really nice idea, very excited, great. Greg Budry is clapping, that's awesome. Clive is saying hello. That's great. So that's basically gonna be the stream. I hope that makes sense to everyone. We're just gonna be going through close Urman. Damn it. Okay, Urman. I don't know. Well, I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm guessing you're German, right? You also posted on the Discord. And of course, this whole thing is being recorded and available for playback on YouTube. So if you suddenly have to leave or something like that, then it will be available. And if you're watching now and you haven't posted something in Discord, and you would still like to get some feedback or something, if you just want to watch the feedback for everyone else, then that's also okay. You can also post something while we're watching, and then while the show is running, and then you can I might get to it later and stuff like that. And as always, I just do whatever kind of makes sense and what sounds fun to do on these live streams. So if you have any ideas for what to do in the future stuff you would like to see, then please write it in the chat or something like that. That would be great, and that way I had a bunch of ideas for stuff to do in the future. Cool, very nice. I think we're gonna get into the discussion itself. And we have a bunch of people saying hello, that's great. Gabriele Brasolin, hello from Italy. Gabriele. I actually lived in Italy, so for a year and a half, so I should be better at pronouncing your name, but I'm not. Very sorry. But great to see everyone. So, as I said, we're going to have a little discussion about feedback in general. So, feedback is a little bit interesting. I think you all know what feedback is, and you probably all received feedback at some point in life, and you probably all received like either good feedback or bad feedback. And I think it's a really interesting thing. I've received feedback right throughout my life. I've also been to school where you get a lot of feedback in a different way. And I would definitely say giving good feedback is a skill. Receiving feedback is also a skill. And if you can master both, I promise you, you will have a way better time with like advancing your work. And you shouldn't get feedback for the sake of feedback. You really need to take the feedback, like the actual content, dissect it and figure out how it works for you. So let's start somewhere with talking about this stuff. I'm gonna just make this go away, and then we can start writing some things down. Because I think that would be kind of fun. I just need a brush here. Grab my pen. Let's see what we got here. Da-da-da. Grab a new thing like this. And why is it important to talk about good feedback, bad feedback, and receiving feedback and stuff like this? This is just kind of like a primer before I go into actually giving feedback and stuff like this to you guys. And I think this is very much my philosophy on how to give feedback, how to receive feedback, what's good feedback, what's bad feedback. It's very much my philosophy, and I would say there's several systems that I've developed that just sort of help me, doing these kinds of things. So throughout the stream, it'd be great if you guys can share your just general opinions on, maybe experiences with good feedback or bad feedback, or certain things that you feel like works. But I've given this advice to students and colleagues and friends and those kinds of things, and I think it applies to all things in life, not just art and those kinds of things, but I definitely think art is a good candidate. So let me just think here for a little bit where to start. The thing is with feedback is that if you are, let's say from the point of view of receiving first, right? Because that's probably how you're going to start out, right? If you're new, if you're just like drawing, then probably the first thing you're doing, or you make some kind of thing, you're making something, you're going to show it to someone, right? Then you are going to be, asking for feedback, and they're going to give you feedback, right? And then you might, have a painting or something, right? Like, let me find a thing here. Actually, I have this guy in the background, right? Like, I have this thing here, right? Let's say I want a feedback with this guy. I'm gonna send it to someone, and then I'll just send it like it is now, and then I just write a person and say, hey, can I get some feedback? Right. Then it's like they're like, yeah, I mean, maybe they'd say, I don't really like his face, he seems mean. Right, and they're like, well, he's supposed to seem mean, and they're like, oh, okay. Right. Then maybe they're like, it seems like his cheeks are very red, maybe they wouldn't be that red. And then you could be like, yeah, but he has like a skin disease, so he's supposed to be red in the face. He's like, oh, okay. It's like, oh, why is his hair colored? Like, it seems very, like, it can quickly get off track if you're not specific about the kind of feedback that you're looking for, right? Just, it's like saying feedback, people tend to default to their likes and their tastes. You might have experienced this if you're asking for feedback. Like, if people know nothing about what you're doing, they just see something, people's default, and it's not to blame them in any way. People's default is just to think about what they like and what they dislike. That's our default, and I've experienced this with everyone from children to students to professionals. Like, lots of professionals where I send them something or I show them something, and then they just go, I like this more, right? They're not giving critical feedback, they're just giving their opinion, right? And maybe that's not what you're looking for, because typically what happens if you're asking for feedback, typically it's because you are practicing something or you're trying to finish something, right? Like, you're working on a project, you want to finish that project, or you're practicing something. So if I was to send this out, if I wanted to be better at receiving feedback, the first step is to guide the feedback giver in the right direction, right? So I'm going to send this out and say, hey, with some person, right? Hey, do you feel like this is too rough, or do you feel like this is finished in terms of like the painting quality, right? So there I'm already, and I could be even more specific and be like, it'd be like, that's the thing that I'm focusing on right now. What do you feel, right? And they're like, well, it feels a little bit rough maybe around the hair here, and maybe there it feels like I can still see like the lines a little bit and stuff like that. And already there, you know, you can hear that you're getting so much more on the right track here with the kind of feedback that that you're looking for potentially, right? Right, they could be like, oh, actually, you know what? This this right there is a little bit too rough right there. Maybe here I can still kind of see the brush strokes and things like this, and this ear doesn't feel as developed as maybe the stuff that's going on in here. And this feels a little bit too soft in comparison to how harsh it is over there. Already we're diving down. We're not talking about his personality or anything like that, because that's not what I'm looking for in the feedback, right? So I think as a person who is looking for feedback, prime the person giving you feedback. Like, let them know what kind of stuff you're looking for. And it's not going to be everyone who's going to be able to give you valuable information on that kind of stuff. I think the whole notion of just getting general feedback, it just doesn't work, because you probably have something you're maybe looking to get better at, right? So just, that's the very first step, right? So I'm going to write that down. I'm going to call it prime. I'm going to write down in nice font here. Does that make sense to people? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, that's the very first step. I'm going to say as the feedback taker. That's what we're going to call it. Prime the feedback giver with good questions about your goals. I cannot emphasize enough how much I do this. If I give feedback, I typically sit and just like talk to a person for 20 minutes. The longest, the more questions and accurate questions I can get about what they're trying to do, you know, what their goals are, where they're at right now, the better feedback I can give them, right? And if you're a person who's received feedback, or maybe, I don't know, maybe somebody's watching who's received feedback from me, you will know that's usually the level of detail I will go through, right? And it's more often when we get to those conversations, it becomes more of a conversation than me just doing a paint over, say, do this instead, and then move on. And also you will have a much more of a complex idea in the good way of where you need to go with the stuff if you have a whole conversation about the stuff, and also we have a similar framework to giving the feedback. So many times I've received feedback from all kinds of people where I'm like, you know, you're showing somebody something and then they're just giving you, I think it'd look better if it was over here. And, you know, and sometimes they're right, but let people prime people with what you want. Because if you're asking them about, you know, what do you think about the character of this guy? Does he feel cruel? Like, and then like, yeah, he feels a little bit cruel and sinister maybe. And then they'll be like, oh, damn it, I was going for, you know, a happy-go-lucky guy. It's like, okay, maybe we should give the guy a smile and not make him look so tense in the face and that kind of stuff. Right, you get my point, right? So let people know what it is you're going after. So that's the first thing here. I just need to pull chat up again. Where the heck did chat go? Is that the one? Oh, I need to pull it back. I hope that makes sense to you guys. That's a really important step as the feedback taker. Just, I want you to think about that. Like, if there's anything you can take away from today, that's the thing you should really think about. Like, because even if you're dealing with a person who's bad at giving feedback, then if you can prime them to give you the right kind of feedback, everything can be salvaged. Just need to bring chat up again, because I lost it for some reason in my full screening fun. I do not want to connect my shop to my... Come on. Let me... There we go. I'm just gonna read through the comments here. Sorry, I missed a bunch of comments here. Blah, blah, blah. Oh yes, and so Henrik writes, oh yes, on the point I got feedback that got me in a circle there. I knew I had to decide. Yes, we'll talk a little bit about that, about how to focus your feedback and those kinds of things. Feedback is so helpful, but it's important to know when to stop and what to accept and not get trapped in it. Yes, exactly, Henrik. We'll get to that also. I have some very important points about that. Dakota Garcia, I made. Oh. Henrik, sure, I hate it, but I often ask, what vibes is this giving you? Give them a lead. Yeah, or tell them what you focused on learning and so on. Can I also send some screenshots from my current project? Sure, go ahead. Are work in progress pieces allowed out of curiosity? No, go work in progress. Work in progress is better than finished stuff, actually. Allow for an easier window of improvement. If I can send work in progress stuff, I'd rather do that than finished stuff. You know, and if you're sending work in progress, then you're probably not asking for the feedback and say like, hey, do you feel like this looks finished? Like you're looking for something different. Maybe you're saying, do you think I could improve the composition, or do you think I could do something with colors? You know, like earlier stuff. Discord is being noisy. I'm just going to turn off the PC sound so you guys don't have to hear that. Can't that backfire though, putting ideas in their head? I think you'd have to be careful when priming them. Sheriff, not him. So it's not about giving people ideas in their head, right? It's just it's about letting people know what you're looking for. Like that's the thing. It's like, hey, I want the feedback that I want to improve a certain aspect of my thing. You know, I think that's my main point here. What you're writing here, that like asking if a character is cruel might put in their head, when otherwise they think he's. In my experience, that's not really the case. Like this thing of like, if I say, hey, do you think this character looks cruel? Then yeah, sure, maybe they're gonna think about like, does he look cruel? But if it's somebody who kind of knows what they're doing, then they can tell you. Like if you're asking a professional something, they can tell you if a character looks a certain way, if an audience will perceive it that way. So it might be different if you're asking a novice or something like that. But then maybe you're not asking the right person for feedback. I'm definitely have way better experiences working, asking priming questions than otherwise. Stuff like that. Okay. So I think it's super valuable. I think don't. Sometimes it can be good. You can if you give feedback to. We'll get to that actually. If you get feedback to a professional who's good at giving feedback, they will probably get to a point where they'll give the kind of feedback that you never thought about you might want to receive. And that we're gonna get to that when we talk about how to give good feedback. And this is gonna go on its head. Okay. This is the first thing. Prime the feedback giver. I hope that makes sense to everyone. I think it's really, really important. I wish more people thought about this. I mean, I see it sometimes, but I think this helps. It really does. I do it all the time. It really, really helps. And I appreciate it when people do it, because then I know where to go. And if they don't do it, then I do it myself. And we're going to get to that. Okay, number 2. As the feedback taker, you're taking feedback. I would say that there's 2 times when you take feedback, and I was kind of talking about it before. Either you're working on a project, you're trying to make something that's going to become something, or you're trying to learn something, right? And yes, you learn something while you're doing a project, but let's just say that your intention is very different, right? You have you have a goal that is like, I'm trying to learn something specific, like I'm trying to create better compositions, right? Like creating better compositions, versus I'm trying to make this specific illustration. Those 2 different things. Practicing compositions, making a specific illustration, right? How you should take feedback is different depending on the 2 things, right? If you're learning, you should take, if you're asking, feedback from people, and if you're asking feedback from the right kind of people, so people who know what they're doing in terms of composition, let's use that as an example. if they know what they're talking about, it should be like a 70% take their feedback, 30% ignore the feedback, right? You shouldn't take, in general, you shouldn't take all feedback. You should be somewhat critical of the feedback you take, which you probably experienced, on your own at some point. You're getting feedback and then you're kind of, oh, I didn't do what they said there. If you're learning and you get feedback, try to do a lot of it and try to implement it, even if it's wrong, even if it's maybe slightly going against what you're doing. Try it, so you should be very, very, very open in that stage, right? So number 2, if you are learning, take in 70% of the feedback and ignore, that's wrong, ignore 30%. Right, does that make sense? So it's not exactly 70% or 30%, that doesn't make sense, right? But it's leaning to that side of like taking in that much feedback. It never works out taking all the feedback, but you try to take as much of it as possible when you are learning. And then this continues to 3. If you are creating a project, it's flipped. You should take in 30% feedback and ignore 70%. So some of you might disagree with this approach. I very much, this is like super important to me, this thing of like ignoring feedback. Being good at taking feedback is often a measure of how critical you are towards that feedback. Like just taking feedback in and then just doing whatever people are saying, then you're not really processing the information. You need to like actively try to like destroy the feedback that you're getting. And that doesn't mean just being like, no, that worked, but you have to be very critical towards the feedback you get so that your brain can churn on it a little bit and figure out why it works. So you have to kind of attack it a little bit. So somebody comes in and tells me that they're like, I don't feel like he would make a really good emperor or whatever, right? In the scenario you're saying, and then you're kind of like, maybe they're right. Like it doesn't really fit the stereotypical idea of a dark emperor or something like that. Either you would think, Darth Sidious or Sauron or something like that, right? But if I want to mix it up a little bit, then maybe it's an interesting approach that he looks a little bit more like this. He still has that quality of being sinister, but he's not as obviously evil as these other guys, right? So there I'm thinking a little, not the best example, but I'm thinking a little bit more critically about the feedback that I'm getting, right? I'm trying to justify it, and maybe you can't justify it, right? Maybe you can't justify it, and then you're taking the feedback. But I think if you're working on a project, right? You're trying to make something specifically. That project is supposed to be your creation, which means it very much relies on your taste and your desire, right? And often what happens is, like we discussed before, when you ask someone for feedback, they tend to default to their taste and their likes, right? And then they'll kind of try to give you feedback to your project with your taste and your likes and your goals, and they're going to be like, I would like it more if it was like this and stuff like that. And that's the stuff you kind of have to filter out a little bit and just look for the stuff that's actually following what you're trying to do and stuff like that. And I found that the ratio tends to be kind of like this, where most of the feedback you get, and that doesn't mean it's not valuable, that you still get the feedback. Getting feedback that you ignore is also valuable, because then you can become more solidified in what it is you're actually trying to do. So always ask for feedback, right? And hear what people, and it's totally fine to ignore stuff, but it can be really good also in figuring out what it is you want to do. Because somebody can be like, it's like, oh, it'd be great if he had a beard and he looked more scruffy. You're kind of like, maybe. It's like, no, but I'm really going for this kind of clean pop star idol kind of thing, where he's a little bit scruffy on the inside maybe, but then trying to hide it and masquerade it with kind of like a sleek exterior or something like that. Then you're like, oh, I hadn't really thought about that before until I got that feedback where I should make it more scruffy. But now you got kind of reaffirmed in what it is you're trying to do. So incorrect feedback can still be valuable in that sense, right? So you have to think critically. So I'm going to write that as the last point here. Think critically about the feedback you're getting. Filter it out and decide on what you need and what you don't need. I was actually thinking about doing a proper video on this subject at some point on the channel, like, because I actually really care about it. It'd be great to formulate it in a way that is a little bit more structured. But I would say that's it for now as the feedback taker. There's some other things specifically, but I think really try to prime. That's my advice, at least. Think about what context you're in. Are you learning? Are you doing a project? And just be really critical about the feedback you receive. Okay, is there anything in the chat I missed here? I hope I didn't lose a lot of people. Dakota's writing, it's not the dumb thing you're thinking of, it's the cool thing I'm thinking of. Right, exactly. Okay, next one. It's gonna be as the feedback giver. What to do. Number one. Prime the feedback taker. Exactly, you got it. Prime the feedback taker with questions about their goals. If you're good at giving feedback, you ask people what it is they're trying to do, where they're going with the thing, and figure out what it is exactly they're looking for. Because often you'll meet people and they will just ask for feedback. Right? They'll be like, hey, here's my thing. I would like feedback. It's like, okay, what are you trying to do? Well, I'm trying to become a engineer. I'm like, okay, but then why are you drawing houses? It's like, oh yeah, that's a good point. You'll save some time and you'll get more time to giving valuable feedback to the person. You also figure out exactly what it is you can provide the stuff. So it's the same thing as the feedback taker. Prime the feedback taker with questions about their goals, either in learning terms or project terms, etc. Feedback giver. Okay. Everything else as the feedback giver kind of revolves around that. I think something else you can do as a feedback giver is you can obviously give a bunch of feedback, right? But what I would try to do is like really hone in on the biggest thing. Like, so let's say that somebody usually, let's say somebody's getting feedback on a picture, right? And they're just asking for kind of general feedback. What do you think you can improve? And maybe you're gonna be like, you know what? The biggest thing is the composition right now. Because that's with your goals, right? They're like, okay, I want this picture to be really eye-catching. What should I do? And then you say, you know what? Then I think it's your composition and the way that the values and the colors and stuff are structured like this. I think that's what I would really focus on. And I think once you honed in on like, that's the big thing that aligns with your goals, I would really focus on that. Like, you could probably give lots of other details like, oh, you could paint this a little bit better, you could use these brushstrokes. Dedicate most of the time to that really big thing and really make sure the person who received the feedback understand why that bit is so important. And the feedback taker might be like, oh, but I was kind of, what can you say about this stuff? Like, if they're saying that they want the stuff to be more eye-catching, and you're saying, then I would focus on the composition. And if they decide, the feedback taker, to not listen to that, or if they, no, actually, I feel like maybe it's the detail or the quality over here in the corners or something, and then you as the feedback giver will be like, well, I don't think so. I think this and this and this and this. Just really make them get why that is important, you know. And they might even ask for feedback on other stuff and like that, but I would try to dedicate most of the time to the core thing. And some of these things I'm saying may sound really obvious, but I promise you, people don't do it. Professionals, colleagues, friends, all kinds of stuff. People just don't. So yeah. So that's kind of the feedback there. It's like focus your feedback time on the core issue / core feedback as the feedback giver. Okay. Another thing, and this is kind of like a smaller thing. Sometimes we talk about harsh feedback. You know, it's like, hey, I often get the thing where people, some people get offended, right? They're like, oh, they're not good at taking feedback. We all know those kinds of people who are not good at taking feedback because they take offense or they feel bad or whatever, and that's sad and unfortunate, but it happens. And then we also have people who will say, just be harsh, right? I think you don't have to be either. Like, you can give harsh feedback, but I think what people mean by harsh feedback is that, like, just cut to the bone and just say, because they're not saying like, tell me that I'm awful and that I'm the worst ever. Like, that's not what they're saying, right? They're telling you for critical feedback. Like, it needs to be essential, good feedback to the bone and say, this is where your issue is and this and this. But I think there's a very different way you can use language to give the feedback. I think if you have a discussion about what the person is trying to do and where the feedback might lead us, then I think, from my experience, people who receive feedback, once they've had that little bit of talking and questioning and going back and forth, they're so much more open to harsh feedback or critical feedback, because we both feel like we're on the same page and it's not just coming like left field, you know, where, you know, you're sitting there, you're kind of like, can you give me some feedback? And they're like, yeah, I think fundamentally you should practice composition way more because this is not working, right? Then they're kind of like, oh my god, right? They're like, they're unprepared for it, right? Sometimes, and then people can shut down a little bit and be like, that was too much in the moment or something, because they weren't prepared for it. And that's just how we work as humans. So I think in the priming, use your priming. So I'm going to write that. Use priming to get use your priming to soften up the feedback session language wise, right? It kind of comes automatically, but I just want you to be aware of it. Maybe this is more of a justification, additional justification to priming, is that I usually see that people open up a little bit more when you have that discussion. And it's not every time that people have time for discussion or want to have the discussion at all, but I promise you the most essential feedback I've gotten has come through discussions, when I really understand why it is somebody wants something. Okay? So these are the things. You can screenshot it, you can do something if you're interested in that. I think it's essential, and maybe you're like, I knew all this stuff, but I promise you, people do not do these things, even though they should. So now you know where I'm coming from, and this is kind of how I'm going to approach this. And it's going to be a little bit difficult when people are in the chat and stuff like that. Then maybe I'll ask you something, it'll be delayed or whatever, but I'll try to, if I can't get all the answers from the chat, then I will imagine what it is you're trying to do. I will try to be fair. Okay? So that was that. I hope that was useful. Are there any questions to this at all before we jump into the feedback sessions? Just, shoot if you have a comment or something like that. Let me know what I'll just give you like a minute to answer, then I can pour myself some apple juice. Yeah, that's me now. I'm an apple juice drinker. Hello, William. Hello, Alam. Hello, Esfindia. This is a great primer for priming. Thanks, Dakota, for the, I don't know what you call that. I'm not quick with the wits. That was a great primer for the priming. It's so much easier to be quick-witted when you are amongst friends, or when you're in chat, because you can hide a little bit. But here I'm very aware that there's like people looking at me, and then I kind of have to, be all formal and engaging, etc. So I don't feel like my response can be as good. And I have that like thing at the back of my mind that's saying like, oh, you cannot swear because YouTube, yada yada yada. Hello, Schultz Division, welcome to the chat. In the meantime, I'm just gonna look at the thing here, and I see lots of people have posted stuff in the Discord, so that's great. But I guess there's no comments on the stuff we just talked about now. I hope it makes sense to everyone. Then we're gonna get right into the feedback. I'm gonna try to get to everyone, and I'm gonna start from the very top. So, whoever is asfand on Discord, can you, if you are in the chat, just let me know that. Just say I am asfand, just so I know. You are the person making this right here. This stuff here. And asfand writes, hey William, so I wanted to create this mushroom inspired. Okay, right. Okay, that makes perfect sense. Sorry, I saw your name. I am ridiculous. Yes, that was very obvious. I should just have used my brain. Hey William, so I wanted to create this mushroom inspired Middle Eastern setting. However, I'm too tunnel vision to push for the finish. I hope your painter work can give me some fresh perspective. I have included the mist pass and a clown pass, each for you to select and things. Okay, so good primer. Already you're saying you're too tunnel vision to finish this thing, right? Is that because you do not feel excited? You don't have to. I'll continue with the feedback even if you don't answer in time. But just think about like, is it because you're not excited about getting to the result, or is it because you're not having a good idea of what the result should be like, or is it just generally like I don't have the vision for it right now? Because I will say that there's lots of examples of stuff like this on, ArtStation or paintings in general that you could look at and be like, oh, I could probably do something like that. So I wouldn't say it's too difficult to find like a vision for it. If I go to ArtStation or something like that, if I look for who would have something like this, maybe I'm just gonna look at Florent Le Bon here. Let's see. Does he have something that's somewhat similar? So you kind of got that sunlight there. So there's something, like this, for example, where it's just very shadowy and lit and very like kind of golden, like it's quite warm, right? So that's one maybe direction you could go, right? Say, okay, we're gonna, so really just big picture stuff, right? Like, okay, it could be like a golden thing. It could also be something colder, more mysterious with a cloudy thing like this, right? So I think that's the thing. Just when you have something that's so basic like this, then where you want to go, it doesn't really matter. Like I think just figure out what could be interesting to show right now. If I'm looking at this environment right now, it looks like we got this guy coming in, and I'm seeing this place maybe for the first time. This is an environment shot or something like that. The composition tells me that it's not going to be a shot that's telling me a specific story or anything like that. It's very much it's very much a shot that's telling me what the place literally is, right? It's an establishing shot in that sense. But then we're going to say, okay, what does this place traditionally feel like? That's kind of where my go-to is, like, okay, if I just want to show off the environment, then what's the traditional look for this place? And I'm thinking that it's looking like it's kind of warm. It could be warm, but right now it looks like both the lit areas and the shadow areas are quite cold. We don't have any warmth in this sense. So and you provided everything like this. I'm gonna open these things here. Can I save that thing there? Let's try this here. Get that there. Cool. And another one. Open browser there. Save images. Yep. And the last one. Save images. There we go. I might not need these two passes, but it's fine for having it there. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna start off by giving this a background. And I'm thinking that this place looks... For some reason I'm getting the feeling that it's in a valley. And I think it's something with the shadows. It just really feels like we're further down. It doesn't feel like to me that it's like a big plain or something, and then it's just gonna be, you know, flat in the background. It feels like we're in some kind of valley, which also feels kind of appropriate for mushrooms and those kinds of things. That makes some amount of sense to me. So that's maybe where I would want to start figuring that out. Like, how can composition kind of help me just figure out a little bit here? And then we're getting a little bit of sunlight coming down to reveal these, like, this mushroom city in this valley. Let's see here. So something, and we are kind of looking here, so I'll help create a little bit of contrast in this area with having a little bit of maybe a little bit of kind of sky peeking through there, right? So there we have a little bit like that. And then I think that we just gotta figure out what we want to do. I think we just really want to show off the scarcity of light, maybe, if we're doing this valley shot. And you could do something else, but this is just kind of what I'm seeing right now, right? So that's kind of the thing. Let's see here. I can see Leon Renner, he wrote, how to tackle feedback that is harsh on you, better feedback that comes from someone you might not share the same beliefs or design language. I'll get back to that, Leon, after this thing. It's a very interesting question. Let's see here, and then I want to establish the like, I think it's very much about figuring out what you want this thing to be about and what should be the feeling as the viewer, right? If it's in a valley, we're far down, then we're gonna have very little light, so we just gotta think about everything that makes this place feel it's not scarce, but limiting in some essential thing. Kind of like, okay, we have very little light, so maybe we also have very little other things. Like everything needs to feel like that, if that makes sense. So just limiting the stuff, you know. So even in the composition, we're limiting the amount of sky we see to make everything feel more like we could still have the same setting where it's in a valley and stuff like that. But if I just do, you know, this, right, then it suddenly becomes more cave-like. This is just hinting at the fact that there's still sky, so it is kind of still valley, but we have very little of it. You know, it's telling us something. By having a little bit there, it's telling us something very different. And it's kind of emphasizing this idea of having little of something. And I kind of like that. And it definitely feels like a society that's kind of relying on other things, clinging to the sides of things. And I think this thing of they're clinging to the sides of mushrooms, so maybe they're living inside, but clinging to the side of something also goes hand in hand with clinging to the side of a valley or having walls like that. There's an echoing of that kind of feel. And I'm just trying to get myself into that mindset. Let's see here. Could we use this one? Yeah, but I'm not gonna use it yet. I'd rather just figure out the shadows here a little bit. How do I want to do the shadows? Do I want to just adjust the shadows? No, I kind of want to create a mask. So I'm gonna take this one and make it go black and white. There, image adjustment, maybe levels? No, not levels, image adjustment, threshold, that's what I want. Like that, that's what I want there. Then here, can I say like that? I'm not really focusing on the composition. I mean, I'm focused on the composition, but I'm not changing the composition you have right now because I think it kind of works spatially and stuff like that. I'm just trying to figure out where will it be the most interesting. And right now that's going to be where it's the most interesting for me. But just, I think you can do a lot for 3D render to make it work. Okay, so we got this here. So here we have the whites. So I'm gonna brighten this up with maybe an add something like this here, like that. Yep. And then so now we're already getting a little bit of contrast between the shadows and the light. We're not going to be getting too much of a contrast because we're so far down and we're inside this valley, so there's not going to be that much skylight actually hitting the shadows, but we are going to put a little bit in, and then we're going to mess with it a little bit. So I'm going to bring this up here, I'm going to invert this one, and then this one is going to become this color actually. And then we're going to give this a, yeah, why not? I'm going to give it that. We're just gonna give it a little bit of blue there. Maybe like that. Like that there, cool. Then I wanna give this a little bit of warmth. So, how do I wanna do that best actually? A little bit of warmth here. That. Just doing this. I have a feeling that these kinds of things are gonna do a lot for the feeling of our thing. Create a little bit of bounce light here and there. And maybe they even get shifted a little bit to like a more orangey color. This is just starting to get that there. Cool. Okay. Then we can go in and remove a little bit of this stuff here. I want to make sure that I guide exactly what it is I want. Let's see here. We got a little bit of that going on. Let's see here. And I really want the golden light to hit right here, kinda. So I don't want this too much. That's a bit too much. And here, that's also too much. And there's a little bit too much there. But I kinda like it in this sort of belt here. Let's just see. Yeah. Maybe a different mode. It's also kind of interesting. Or even warmer. Okay. Then maybe we can look at this thing here. Oh, not that one. This thing over there. And then we can apply that on top here, maybe. Something like that. Maybe like so. Then I do want this thing to cut it out. Like that. Should we do a little? No, let's just do it normal. And then we can kind of just. This is going to be quite sandy, I think. I just want to get a little bit of painting built up, and then I'll talk a little bit more just about what to do. There, okay, cool. Then this thing can. I don't want to bring in pictures and stuff like that, because that's just going to make things take longer and make it a little bit too complicated. See here. Maybe this thing actually works a little bit nicer like that. And then a little bit of this kind of feel here. And this thing is definitely too harsh right now. I'm just gonna give it a little bit of. This thing is not really doing what I would like. Maybe I can bring that back in. What is going on there? Okay, just paint that in. Okay, so I kind of got a little bit of a feeling going on here now. And the feeling is definitely that thing we were talking about. Right, we're in a little bit further down, kind of in a valley or something like that. And we don't have a lot of stuff. Beaming this up, so we're seeing this little house here. Want to separate out some of these things, but that's more just making the picture. I think this could be good. Yeah, I would really just find the focus. I think for me the focus is definitely down here, and then mixing it with this kind of stuff. That's definitely where our attention is going right now. This is a little bit distracting. I think with the white clouds it became a little bit too much. But I do like that as a way of going in, and then you could always bring in something kinda like this here. Gonna create a little fast, just some quick God rays. And then we can blow up the sky a little bit like this. Okay, so I'm seeing this house and it kind of feels like something special needs to happen down by that house. We're having something there. So now we have all this darkness and we got this thing here, and it's making me think that this house is somehow special. It's not just the area, it's become this house a little bit. Maybe it's that somebody is doing something here. I think that's the one thing that's a little bit interesting, is that I'm seeing these buildings, and when it's just a guy there, is it abandoned actually, this place? Because it almost looks like it's been overrun a little bit. But I would like to maybe, I mean, it doesn't feel abandoned that much with this kind of stuff. It feels it's supposed to be people living there. So I would love to see that maybe. And maybe that's not the intention, but it could be that it's kind of scarcely lived. People are kind of barely living there. So maybe somebody is kind of sitting up there. You know, I'm just gonna turn off this stuff here and just give it a little bit of stuff like this. Maybe somebody is up here. Somebody, and they're all kind of looking at this guy. Maybe there's something wrong with this guy since he's arrived at this place, and they're all kind of looking at him, not willing to go down on the ground. You know, they can sit here, and maybe somebody is standing over here. You can kind of bring in a pretty interesting story here if you have some kind of character here or something who is maybe meeting this guy. So because this guy is almost, he's kind of darker and kind of black looking, or he's the dark character. So maybe there is somebody here who is maybe he has a red. This guy's blue, so we kind of want to bring in maybe like a red thing like that. Then maybe a guy like this. And then he will also have a shadow. The shadow will be, let's just try the same kind of stuff here. Wait, no, the light is actually coming from the other side. This brush is not the best brush for this. Let's see here, then maybe. I think actually all white. That's kind of what I'm thinking. And then we kind of have that guy there, maybe. He's a little bit on the big side. Gonna bring him down. And maybe he's kind of standing and doing something with his hands for this place. Maybe he's even kind of thinking about this place. Or her, or I actually don't know if it's a guy or girl, but somebody's doing something here with the house. I think that's just kind of what felt a little bit interesting, is that something was happening here, and now, you know, we have these guys kind of looking down. We're seeing this guy and something is happening here, and it's, even if the image isn't really finished, it feels like something's kind of happening, you know, like, and it's not because the event is still the environment that this very much is about, but this, it gets to the an eeriness to this environment, you know, just through like a little bit of character drama or something like that. And I feel like that's kind of interesting. And maybe it takes the thing from an environment piece over to an illustration a little bit more, but I think it has a certain quality to it where now I'm looking at it and I'm kind of like, like what's going on there? Like I kind of want to know more about what it feels like something has happened. They're kind of looking there. I'm getting that sort of feeling. I think also if these things are mushrooms, they feel a lot like stone. Maybe they are stone. I mean, are they stone or are they mushrooms? Maybe you can answer that as fun. If they're actual stone or if they're mushroom, or if they're mushroom-shaped stone stuff. While you answer, then I'll just check the Discord here. Let's see. Okay, there's a good portion of stuff here. Just mud houses. Okay, so they're built houses in that sense. Okay, and they built them like that. Okay, I think this is sort of the direction that I would take the image in, I think. I hope that makes sense. I think this was a little bit extreme with this here. I think maybe this could have gotten something like this is kind of where I would generally go with this thing. I hope that works out for you. I realized there was a big portion of time there where I didn't really say anything and I was just drawing, but that's just felt like the most natural. And I would really get the bounce light in here. I think the bounce light stuff, it can really become another marker for the scarcity. It's like, oh, they are almost relying on the bounce light or something. Though the image has to rely on the bounce light for anything to make sense. Yeah, kind of still just don't like this that much there. Then screen, kind of give this like really blow this out here. Not quite happy with this tower here. I think I think the shadow shapes are kinda messing with me a little bit. I would maybe do it like this. Like these are kinda somehow they're a little bit distracting. Like if it's just the top, that kinda works. But the whole thing, there's something about that shape that just, yeah, this feels a lot nicer. That feels more like the light is coming in. I wish that I could see a little bit more of this kind of stuff here. And then maybe that comes in there. Maybe this is a little bit more dark. Yeah, exactly like that. Then we got that kind of bounce there, a bit of bounce there, kind of bounce there. Yeah, I think that's kind of the thing. So just on the general idea, I think, you know, you should just push on to like doing the actual piece. But if these things are mud houses, it feels kind of arbitrary that they would have built them like this. I don't really see why. It feels more like these are natural formations and they built houses around that. That would be my interpretation. And I would maybe think about that. I can see maybe there was a structure and then they kind of modify the structure with bricks and stuff like this to make it workable as a home. But that they built the stuff like this, that doesn't feel like it makes sense to me. So I would maybe think about like whether these are natural structures or whether they made them. Because if they made, like, this is what they made, and then I feel like that's the contrast to the other stuff. So I would just, in your idea, be very clear whether it's one thing or the other. But I'm gonna leave it here for now, and I hope that that was useful. And then I'm gonna post that in at Asfund. Then I'm gonna post that in the critical feedback chat. I don't know if that makes sense. Cool. That was that for now. Let's see here. I'm gonna take a 5-minute break, and then I'll get crunching on some of the other stuff. The next one being Blemonade. Just let me know in the chat if Blemonade is here. But we'll be right back after 5 minutes. And we are back to streaming. Let's see here. So the next one is Blemonade. I didn't get an answer if Blemonade is actually in the chat. If not, then we'll just look at it kind of quickly. Hey William, so a while back I made this animation for Punisher's Endless Engines Challenge. I put a lot of time and effort in it, but sadly I didn't get into the top 100. Could you tell me what can be improved? But what I really need to help with right now is this work in progress lighting study. Okay, so yeah, let's see here. So we got this thing. I guess there's no sound on it. I don't know if there was supposed to be sound on it, something like that. Okay, so you got this thing. This car chase here. I don't know if this is supposed to loop, but I'm guessing not, like probably. Okay, cool. Is this yourself on a green screen and also this? That's kind of funny. Okay, so I think I don't really know what the Punisher is looking for in terms of like how they rank the top 100. Like I think it's a cool shot. The lighting is good. I think the idea is interesting. You know, it's kind of this like pretending to have a car chase and then it transforms into, you know, in reality it's just a cardboard car. Kind of that's what's going on. In terms of what can be improved, like if I'm like, I think, you know, lighting and everything, it looks cool. I wouldn't really say anything there. I think for me as a shot, like if this is really personal, right? This is my tastes coming in and stuff like that, and maybe in terms of executing your idea, then the idea, as I understand it, is that we're having a car chase, but then it's revealed that, actually it's a cardboard car, and we're just pretending that that's what's going on. And then it's shifting back to the car, and then we're going here, right? And I don't know if it's supposed to loop. It doesn't look like it's looping. So if it, like if it's not supposed to loop, then I feel like maybe the idea is a little bit hard to grasp because you have to spend the time going into the cardboard box and going out of it. I think I like the reveal that, it's a car chase, but then I need to have like a punchline where it's like, the punchline is actually that it's actually just this crappy cardboard thing. And I think maybe the transformation is happening too fast for me to understand what's going on. Like I'm watching, and we only have 5 seconds, so you have to be very careful with the amount of time. I would actually spend all the way to 3 seconds before doing the transition. So maybe over here or something. Then do the transition to the cardboard car. And then maybe something goes wrong or something happens that brings it back into the real thing, and not until like here or something, right? That's kind of how I would do it. Did you miss it? Yeah, it feels a little bit like a VFX breakdown kind of. But I think for me, I'm reading it as like somebody's pretending, you know, to drive the thing. It's a little bit hard for me to exactly understand what's going on. Like, are they just playing or are they trying to film the thing, right? So that's for me the thing. Like I would pull the thing all the way into like 3 seconds, and then I would do your transition. And the transition is also a little bit confusing, maybe, where I'm not exactly sure like what's happening, because it's not a cut, right? It's not a cut. It's kind of like saying that these two realities are transforming. Like if it was cut, it would be very clear that like, okay, this is actually what's going on. But your transition is really cool, like this cardboard car transforming. But it could also have been that this car drives into a building, right? And then literally a building comes, and then when it's in the building, then it's a cardboard car. But I feel like that's telling the wrong story. So I would rather do a transition a little bit later, maybe, and then something needs to happen when we're here for the car to move again. You know, so maybe like a flash or something needs to feel like something is happening. Maybe the guy behind the scene is kind of like he's driving, and then it's like he's like, oh, damn it, or something. Or maybe this roll thing gets stuck or something like that, and something happens. Maybe it gets stuck and he kind of has to churn, and then it gives it a big churn, and then there's a movement to kind of justify the car going again. Because here it's just kind of like we're stopping, then we're like, it's like driving, then transitions like, oh, okay, that's what's going on, but then there's no movement to really get us out again. You know, it's just the movement is just continuing. So maybe there's something to instigate that movement. Yeah, that's what I want to say about that. I don't really have any better feedback. You're doing a lighting study. I'm probably not the best person to ask. I'm more of like a designer than like a lighting expert. Like, I don't really know. It depends on what you're looking at. Are these kind of strobe lights, or not strobe lights, but something has gone by and then like a long exposure kind of thing? I know it's a lighting study, but what I'm actually seeing is just that I'm getting a little bit of a miniature feel. Maybe this is also scale, but there's just some things that makes me feel like some of the stuff is a little bit too big. The thickness of this ladder feels a little bit too much. The proportions on this locker feels a little bit strange in comparison to when I'm seeing the shopping cart. This kind of all makes sense to me. And then the curb, it's quite high, but maybe that's how it works, where you're basing this thing from. But then especially the big thing is like the size of these barbed wires and the thickness of them makes it seem like it's smaller than what it's supposed to be. And then also because it has so much, not lens distortion, but just general distortion, then it makes me feel like some kind of macro stuff has happened, because there's quite a lot of bloom on the things. So some of the things are not quite aligning. I would say that's more of an issue for me, unless you're going for macro look. I don't think so, but that's more an issue for me than the lighting itself, because I think the lighting looks fine, and if you have a reference that looks completely different, then maybe it's not going so well. But you haven't sent the reference, so I don't know. But that's what I would actually say. Like, for me, there's some kind of scale stuff going on where that would be adjusted a little bit. And I know it's a study, but I'm not exactly sure what I'm looking at. And I just got this red trail going. I kind of like the red and green contrast going on here, but as an image, maybe these things are taking focus away from. It's kind of interesting. I mean, that's really all I can say. Like, I don't know what else to say with this thing. But I hope that makes sense. Okay, gonna move on to salt and pepper. Is salt and pepper in the chat? Just let me know. Hey William, I got these 2 series of artworks but couldn't pick one to send, so feel free to choose whichever you want. They're meant to be in the same universe. Okay. Cars. Yeah, I don't really know what kind of feedback you want here. Like, that's kind of how, I mean, they could just be finished, you know. Like, it's like, hey, these are finished renders. They are flamingos looking at a car. We've got the cars on top of each other. I mean, I can tell you which ones I like the most. Maybe that's valuable. I would probably focus the most on composition. I think this one is the weakest composition-wise. It's got some kind of unfortunate tangents here where this blue line here is kind of aligning with the edge of this roof, and then it just feels like it's been cropped from something that's supposed to be interesting. If I could see more of the car in a different way, and then also this palm tree is being cut. Plexiglass. So plexiglass, this is yours. Just to double confirm. Okay. Okay, so it makes sense to me now that it's yours. So I would say this one's I think it's the weakest one, kind of. I quite like this one. I think it's telling me that it's supposed to be stacked vertically, but the physics and it's falling a little bit to the left here. I wish that this was actually just linear, and it's kind of becoming extra bad because this tree is also warping to the left, so there's a lot of direction going this way, and it feels like it's kind of falling. Oh, that's wrong. There we go. I guess I would wish that it was just a bit more over there. If the tree was, if they were warping to the other side, yeah, like this, I think I like that a bit more. Oh wait, can I just use the content aware autofill? This was the AI tool, but I don't think I have that. Yeah, like that, kind of. Yeah, that's, I mean, obviously the cars are warped now, but it's a bit more there on top of each other. I think that's the feeling that's also kind of fun. I don't think the feeling that they're falling is the thing, because they're definitely defying gravity in a weird way. I would just align them a little bit more. Yeah, it's something along those lines, kind of. Just think about there. But I quite like that one. I like this warped lens one. I think that one's really fun. And there's this one, and then there's this one. There's something about this one that I kind of like. I think it's because this one is perpendicular to the camera. But there's something with the lighting here on the ground that I kind of like. Yeah, and then there's this one. This one is more like a kind of your flat composition, but I think it's this one I quite like. I think this one's the strongest of your compositions. I would actually just uncover this. It's kind of, the composition is telling me that I'm supposed to see the entire car, or that they're supposed to not overlap, and it exactly overlaps there. And I would get rid of that just so that the car is exactly pristine. And you have a palm tree there in the back. I would move the palm tree out to the left and maybe add a second one over there, just so that the car gets to have a clean and clear silhouette. But I like this composition. I think it's quite interesting. You got a lot of sky that's not doing a lot for you. This could be good as a, maybe this could be recropped actually. Oh, that's not the one. Copy image. Oh, it keeps just, okay. I hope this makes sense, by the way. I hope it's come on. Oh my god, am I so retarded. Open link, there we go. There we go. I wonder if, yeah, it's kind of like, it's telling me that it's not quite that it's the sky is not quite doing something. It feels like it needs to be here or something. It's either that or the opposite, where it needs to be kind of all the way there. To like really do something with the image. It's like saying, oh, okay, cool. Like that's kind of making a statement. This is a little bit about large, medium, small, and that kind of stuff. I feel like it's one or the other. It either has to come down and be very tight, or it has to open up. I think where it's currently at, it's doing neither, but it's such a small thing, and it's very personal, I think. But I think they're generally like fun compositions. I think I like this one. I kind of like this one also, but I would rearrange the flamingos a little bit, and I would maybe just change the car's color to match the flamingos, just to emphasize or vice versa or something like that. I think it's just slightly, because over here they're a little bit more red when you get into the shadows, and we're losing that a little bit. It's becoming very washed out. I wish it was a little bit more punchy. In this specific image, not in this one here. I think the contrast is kind of cool, but for some reason here that feels different. And then there's something about there. Yeah, I was just thinking about how you're placing your palm trees. I hope this makes sense. I don't have a lot else to say there. They're kind of finished, so I hope it. Lighting. Okay, you're asking here. Lighting wise, no, yeah, so the thing with the flamingos and the get lost, no, it would get lost, but I feel like this image is kind of telling me to be what's called a delayed comprehension image. So it's not like very obvious immediately what's going on, right? And delayed comprehension images, that's kind of what they're about. It's like you have to stare at them for a little bit to kind of be like, oh, that's what's going on. And then somebody could say like, oh, it should be more contrasty, but maybe that's not the goal. Sometimes you want to make an image that requires you to stare at it longer, because then the feeling is very different. And for me, this is kind of telling me this should be a delayed comprehension. That's just what I would do with it, where it's like, okay, it actually is quite low contrast, and it's kind of like, wait, what's going on? Oh, it's a car. Like it takes you a little bit, but then that reveal is kind of, that's the satisfaction, where here it's very clear what's going on, right? So just, I would kind of lean into the delayed comprehension and make it get lost, where some of these other ones are. This one is clearly not delayed comprehension, not supposed to. It's just supposed to be punchy immediately. Maybe lighting wise, like, you know, they're all just like very, I think this one is a little bit too bright overall, for my taste, but I feel like the lighting wise is more taste than if it's good or bad. You can't say if it's good or bad. I think it's just this is kind of going for this almost kind of plasticky Barbie look or something, and they look like this. You can punch the colors. No, I think it, for me, it kind of works. I think, especially with this kind of style. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. But if you have more things, then ask away. I'm gonna move on. Clive. Hi there, this is a render I created a few weeks ago to improve my lighting and composition skills, and I would appreciate some feedback. I would also love to receive some overall feedback on my portfolio, as I plan to apply for art school in a few months. Here's my ArtStation. Okay. Improve my lighting and composition. Clive, are you in the chat? Let me know if you're in the chat. Lighting, okay. Gonna look quickly portfolio. I said I wouldn't, but I'm gonna anyways. Look at some things here. Okay, lots of kind of lighting stuff. 3D artist, I guess that's also for that thing. Doing scenes, render, lighting things. You want feedback on the other thing. Okay, so I want to give the feedback that I'm best at giving it, which is definitely more like design, composition, and those kinds of things versus lighting. But you did write lighting specifically. Put my lighting composition. Okay, let's say composition. At least I'm gonna look at that. Let's see. Can I get? This never works. Like that. Like that. Okay. Lighting. Composition. Here's a trick to check your compositions. Make a new adjustment layer. Make it black and white. Layer, new adjustment layer. Posterize. There we go. Things like that. Oh. I closed everything again here. There we go. Clive is here. Okay, cool. Let's see, and this is just a good way of checking your stuff. Okay, it's a flat composition. I'm trying to figure out what the, I know it's a lighting study and a composition study, so it's that's very much what it's about. I mean, always I want to give the feedback that if you can create an image, you might as well try to do something with the image, but you're also practicing here, so that is fine. Okay, let's see. I'm kinda not really sure what's happening. So it's like this is the roof of the cave, kinda. But because of where it is, it can also read as if though it's still part of the wall, which makes this look like a hole. I mean, it is a hole, but it's like, is this thing, you know, going that way, right? Or is it going that way, like continuing the wall, and then this is wall, kind of. I know it isn't wall, but the way it's set up right now, and the way compositionally it's structured, it feels a little bit like it could be either. So I would figure out either maybe you want to move these things up structurally so that so there's some more hints to me to understand which way this is going, so that I don't get confused, you know. So it's just like, okay, cool, there, those kind of things. I feel like the one really big thing with caves that is awesome is that you get some of the most amazing bounce light ever. So I would love to see a lot more like this kind of stuff. Because right now that's being really washed out by some of the other things, but you can get this amazing kind of bounce, which makes the cave feel a little bit luminous. Kind of like this. And you do have a little bit of it, but I would love to see kind of things like this kind of stuff here. And you're also crunching these blacks here a lot, which is fine. But you can also get a little bit of hopefully see what I'm getting at here. So this is kind of just letting me know that, like, okay, this is definitely the ceiling, right? That's what's happening there. Seeing that there, and then that's happening there. And then you got this area here where you're trying to show off two things. So you're kind of showing that, like, okay, there's this crater down. Showing this crater down, like, so there's seen from the top, right? Then we kind of got that thing going on. Then there's some land around. The hole comes down like this, and then inside the hole somewhere there's another tunnel, and that's we're here, where the camera's here, and the guy's here on this island. There, and then something's happening there. I think the guy's placed slightly in a slightly weird place. I'm just gonna undo this. The kind of logic would tell me that he's supposed to be, or that's a convention, not logic. Convention would tell me that he's supposed to be here instead, and kind of in the middle of the tunnel, and I am kind of seeing him from inside the tunnel, right? So it's kind of this outside space and inside space. And what's going on here with this stuff here? Because the composition was already quite symmetrical. You have a lot of these things kind of overlapping. I think they are maybe detracting a little bit from. Maybe you could have something like that. Like if he's more in the center of stuff. You can also see that you're kind of crunching your blacks a lot here in the background. I think you can brighten the stuff up a little bit and only let the really blacks be in the foreground to keep that depth. You know, the further we go away into the distance, the brighter stuff becomes. And I think I would maybe dial back your blacks a little bit. It is a style for sure, but I think maybe it's a good thing to practice also looking at some of the other stuff on your portfolio. Stuff looks a little bit crunched. Not always, but stuff is, it has a certain style, right? Like even this, like, which you have the atmospheric perspective, but it's still quite crunched to the point where I'm not, you know, it's like I almost have a hard time exactly seeing what the stuff is, and it'd be okay to see what the things are. I think at least it would be good to try, you know. This is not so crunched, but I would maybe try to. This is also kind of crunched, right? I mean, and it's a style. Like I totally get that. Like you can do it that way. This guy is tangenting a lot with this thing. That's kind of uncomfortable. Yeah. And then, I mean, and you can do this green color wise. I think that'd be a good exercise to just try to not crunch it too much. Just try to let the subject matter speak for itself. These are quite dark here. I'll bring those out. Yeah. Something along those lines. And yeah, I would maybe rethink this a little bit. There's kind of some values that are happening there, but you can try something a little bit more. I think the line was kind of a slightly odd shape. I would just rethink this, like the crevice up there, just to see if you can get something slightly different. Maybe something that's helping the composition as a whole a bit more. because it's definitely yeah. Think about those things. I think that's kind of the best thing I can do right now. Thinking about the stuff. But I also want to be able to hit more people here. Yeah, I think this is kind of the direction I would. You can always crunch it again, but I think some of these like features, like bounce and stuff, you can still have a crunch picture. But if you can get these features in, then you can bring in your crunch afterwards. Then you'll have that slight subtlety later on, and I think it'll make it stuff feel a little bit more. It's kind of creating an interesting bottom part of the image. And obviously the image was a little bit nicer, like this, you know, when it was just done. But this is kind of what I would try. I would try this. I wouldn't say do this. I would try this. All right. So I hope that did something. Okay, I'm gonna move on here. Henrik, hello from Germany, 18 years old student. Love your current streams. Also love to hear any feedback on this. Some more information. Blah blah blah. And I assume that Henrik is the Henrik that's always also here in the chat. Henrik Ehrman. I have no clue if that's right. You know, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, it is. It is, of course. It is. I could just read. And you would like feedback on this. Okay, cool. And this is supposed to be a first-person shot. Okay. Okay, so I'm not sure exactly what you're trying to do. If you're like trying to do game environments, or if you're trying to do like concept art, or what it is exactly. What is it you're trying to do here? Kind of what do you want to do? What are you trying to get better at? I just want to give feedback in the right way and give advice in the right direction so that it makes sense for you. Are you a student in like high school, or are you a student in like an art school, or you're applying for something, or how does that work? And I could just read the next one. I will just think a little bit about this while you answer, Henrik. Just exactly where you want to go. I will give you feedback. I'm just going to read the next stuff here. I probably invented for what text the character developed a few months ago. Albeit from Japanese yokai folk. I made this whole character in Blender. I was designing subspace on Photoshop. This supposed to be a character was subject of children's query. When I had shown to my friends, many told me to strike a more dynamic pose, but I'm okay with work on that because I had done similar. My main query is that I feel I'm not telling the whole story directly, or I'm not telling it simply enough manner without having to write the upper story. A story bit. Oh, okay. So that's a bit more complex. That sounds pretty interesting. And Henrik, you're also posting down here. Which one do you want me to look at? This house looks fine. Looks great. Just keep going with this house. You should do a piece with this house. These wood things look cool. I will get back to the stuff here. Oh, okay, a lot of posting. Schultz, late to the, oh my god. So I gotta hit this one, and I gotta hit this one. Okay, cool. So And we're looking at this thing stuff here. It seems to me like you're trying to do a few images. Okay, I will give some feedback on the please on the labor thing. Is this the labor thing? Like the lab thing? This is the lab thing. I'm assuming that's what you means. Okay, I'm gonna look at that one. That's not what I wanted. Open image, new tab. Open link, there we go. Copy. File, new. There we go. Okay. So this is supposed to, okay, I would say the main thing to focus on, and that's kind of composition. There's a description, you say. The science lab. This artwork was made for the CG Boost Challenge Science Lab. It's completely made in Blender and my first real big project. It's an underground lab. 2 humans are caught and subjected to unknown experiments. This is the final image which created and improved, mainly focused on developing the story. Okay, so first of all, doing an image from a POV is a really hard thing to do. So POV, I mean that we're seeing it from somebody else's perspective. It's hard because we immediately think like game or something like that, and it's a pretty unnatural position to see something from, strangely enough, because we're very used to that, right? But as soon as we're seeing that thing, it's like, okay, well, I'm in somebody else's shoes, and I'm immediately thinking gameplay, game something. But let's see here. So the story is that it's 2 humans caught in a lab. Okay. Being experimented on. My initial read when I see the image is not humans being experimented on. Like I'm not, so I'm guessing it's this guy who's being experimented on and the guy we're seeing it from. They're the ones who are the experiments, and then we're seeing it from one of them, and then something's happening to him now, and maybe he's like reaching out because it hurts, or maybe he's, at first I thought he had thrown something over there, and then something had kind of happened here. Like that's my read, but then looking closer at the image, then that's not what's really happening. The place also, because there's plants and stuff, it's not really telling me that it's like a very evil lab. It kind of maybe looks more like a what's it called, like a biochemistry lab, or not a biochemistry lab, but like a thing where they're doing plant research or something like that, experimenting with that kind of stuff. I don't know what that science is called. It's called something like biology. I think your image overall is a little bit too noisy. I would maybe do a slightly different approach. Like this kind of stuff it's cool, but I'm having a hard time reading and understanding what it is that's happening. Like this is the stuff that's telling me the most. Like it's like, okay, there's this guy, but then there's also this guy. I kind of want to know about what's happening here. And maybe this could look more dramatic in a different way. So instead of painting over the stuff, I'm gonna suggest an alternative composition, trying to kind of do the same thing that you're doing here. So let's get a brush here like this. Which one actually? Maybe this one. So I'm just gonna establish some kind of horizon line, and then we got our perspective floor here, like that, like that, right? Then we have our center stage attention there. So I'd maybe want to think about how we're seeing this guy there. He is a human who's caught and subject to unknown experiments. I want to make it really clear that that's what's happening to that guy. So he is maybe locked in a even more fucked up way, kind of like this. Maybe something like that. You know, feet like that, kind of. Da 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 da. And then, you know, something's happening. And then you got all these wires. Why are the wires not just coming down like here to his things? And then maybe we have lots of tables and stuff kind of on the side and things. We got all these shelves, and you kind of got the shelves that could really be part of the dynamicness of this picture, where the shelves are here, so we really see all the weird stuff. Maybe there's jars filled with other things, and he is there, and maybe he's tied up or something, like with strings like that, and maybe there's more tables with stuff. Maybe there's some weird weapons and things, or weird like tools. And then we got our doctor, or our person researching the people. Maybe he's over here or something, trying out other stuff. Da 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 da. Let's see here. And then okay, so we got the wires coming down, we got this guy there. Then we want to get in our hero here, or the person we're looking from. And I think here it's important that we want to understand what's happening to this guy in the front, and it's a little bit hard for me to understand, but I think I know what you're kind of going for. So what I would try to do is utilize what you have in the image here, and here I planted a little bit of thing. I planted these things that's where he's tied up or something. So now when we're doing the guy in the front here, let's just turn this down a little bit there. The guy in the front here, then we can do something fun, which is we can hint to those things by having a hand maybe coming out. So let's see here, he will kind of have a, I just need to imagine how that looks. Maybe his hand is coming out like this, and here I would really do the acting in the hand as much as possible. You know, really make the hand seem incredibly anguished and hurting. Like, it needs to feel awful. Like this, kinda. Like there. And then here, you know, maybe he has that thing on his arm also, where it's holding him back or something like that. Then maybe we even have another arm or something over here. Also being held down by the same kind of chain. And that way we can just kind of establish what is, maybe it's coming from up here or something like that. Then we can just kind of establish, we see this, we see the stuff here, and then we also see it here. We know that, okay, you know what, they're both in a very similar situation, and we're seeing the horror. And maybe we create some tension by having the doctor, for example, look over his shoulder and looking at us, kind of with a needle or something in his hand. I'm gonna move him a little bit so he's not in the way of the hand. Like that. Maybe he has a needle that he's getting ready. And he's looking over at us. Then, you know, we start feeling that tension. And maybe there's a pile of bodies and stuff over here or whatever. Right? You get what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, now I know that this guy is trapped because we see it over here, right? I don't have to make a huge leap of imagination, and then here this is kind of telling us that something's gonna happen to us right now. And we're seeing through the POV, so it really drive home the importance of having that point of view. Like if he was looking the other way, then it's kind of like, okay, something's gonna happen to this guy. Then maybe the POV, you could say that, right? You could say that, like, okay, we're seeing it from this guy's point of view, and then the doctor going that way. That's interesting. But then I would almost, then maybe the POV doesn't matter. Here he can directly look into us, you know, pretending that we are the guy who's trapped, and then that creates a little bit of tension. So I would say, like, utilize that to your advantage, kind of. So that's kind of how I would approach it. I hope that helps. Just create pointers for these things. I think overall, just like make your image more clear, make it very clear what's going on, because that's my main complaint. Maybe is that it's a little bit hard to see what's happening. Cool. There was a bunch of comments here. It's be cool to see the scientists panicking or running away from the fight. Could sell the drama a bit more. Yep, if you want to do that, sounds cool. I like that too. Could be a fun idea if the other guy were the POV guy, like mirrored. Also, it's like a mirror. That'd be kind of interesting if it was literally a mirror, and then you're seeing yourself. That's a cool idea. I like that idea also. That's super cool. You could try that actually. I think that's even stronger. Because then the whole which way is he turning makes a lot of sense. So maybe it's a big mirror and you're seeing your reflection of what's happening. That could be pretty fun, and that would be super hard to do film-wise, because you'd have to fake it with the camera and stuff. Like if you're filming it from that point of view, but you could do it in a game or you could do it in 3D or something like that. I really like the mirror idea. That's a great suggestion. Henrik writes, yeah, I get it. Try to make more motion into POV and more dramatic objects movement. Yeah. Initially thought the main character was charging at the guy at the back, but if he's a captive, then the placement of the scientist works too. Yeah, no, I also thought that he was charging at the guy with the way the arm was, and maybe that was the intention, but now we're doing this, which I also think it's kind of interesting. POV is hard though. It's a really hard thing to do. Okay, I'm gonna move on to this one. Was so Audi. Is Audi in the chat? Just let me know. If Audi is in the chat. So some of the stuff obviously can't. Okay, so that's you, Mariam. Okay, nice. A character description of the story. From Japanese folklore, this yokai is known to be a malicious entity. Oh, it's already 10. I kind of wanted to go. There's a lot of these ones that I won't be able to discuss right now, but then maybe. Oh, there's so many coming. Oh, nice. Haha, I recognize. Awesome. I will have to get to some of these like a different time. I'm sorry about that, but I want to give good time to everyone. This will be the last one I do then. Ah, damn it, I kind of wanted to go down and do this also. That could be really fun. But actually, I want to have good time to give good feedback to some of this other stuff. And I want to do it live, so just let me know. Fuya, Cricket, Schultz, I can see Schultz is in the chat. It's Robin TV, and Audio posted twice. Are you interested in this one or in the second one? I can do either. Like, which one do you prefer the feedback on? 7 months using Blender, trying to learn environment concept. Yeah, so some of these I won't get to now, but I will do them. So just the people here after Audi here. Can you guys do it next Thursday? Or we could try doing something in the weekend. What would you guys prefer? No, actually, you know what? No, we're gonna do it in the weekend. I'll do a second part to this in the weekend. I think that makes a lot of sense. And we'll do it on... When will we do it? Yeah, we'll do it in the weekend. Saturday evening. What do I have plans? Saturday, Sunday. Saturday evening. You can always ask feedback on the channel. I don't always answer, but you can always ask feedback. Of course. Always. We can do Saturday. I don't know about the time yet, but I will write that. But Saturday evening it'll be. Saturday evening. So hopefully everyone can make that. So maybe Saturday roughly the same time. It might not be exactly at 8, but I will let you guys know. Okay? So it's Robin TV. I think I'm gonna do Saturday because Sunday might be late for some people because time zone. So it'll be Saturday. This Saturday. This Saturday there will be a continuation of the feedback stuff from some stuff because I just want to get to these people. I am based in Denmark. It'll be roughly the same time as now. So 2 hours earlier basically. So 8 o'clock for me. 20 o'clock for me. So 8. Yeah, Saturday. We'll do that. Then I'll get to these ones. But I'll do this one for now, and that'll be the final one, and then I'll get to some of this other stuff. Okay. From Japanese folklore, this yokai is known to be a malicious entity. In some accounts, it is known to hang women by a tree, and in other accounts, he is known to fling humans over the ungodly strength in a sumo match. Either way, the Aobosu was supposed to be a character that was a subject of children's folktales and has likely gained a terrible reputation. Now wielding his ritual staff, this Aobusa travels the roads to be a regular saint and try to help humans in this process. When I had this shown to my friends, many told me to strike a more dynamic pose with it. I'm okay with working on that because I had done similar poses in previous projects and cancelled projects. My main query is that I feel I'm not telling the whole story directly, or I'm not telling it in a simple enough manner without having to write the upper story text to describe it. Yes, that makes sense. What do you think could have done to portray the story better into this character? Okay. I'm gonna bring this. This doesn't work. I never learn. Copy link. I mean, you can just keep posting stuff in the channel, and we'll just do it chronologically. Where the hell did that link go? Open link. There we go. Copy image. Oof. It's also, brain work for me, this, just like trying to give this much feedback. And I want to be able to do this once in a while. It's not going to be the regular content it's too heavy for me also, but I think it's nice doing it now, and I can see lots of you guys are appreciating it, so that is great. So the way I understand it is that it kind of seems like this guy has a bad reputation, but he's now trying to do good. Right, he's trying to do good. I would say the important bit here now is the contrast in his character. So you have to figure out that, you know, his oh, the soul doesn't work. There we go. So his look is probably somewhat evil or something. Or not evil, but not pleasant or whatever. But he's trying to change his ways. So how can we use that in a way? I think you're kind of onto the right track with having the clothes be very welcoming, like they look monk-like. I think the more pacifist he can look, the better. I don't know what's on his back here, but it kind of looks like a weapon. I would maybe drop the weapon and just have him be more even more kind of pacifist, if I'm getting the story right, you know. But that's the story I'm going with right now, is that he has this bad rep and he is trying to do right. So maybe that's reflected in his posture, in that he is trying to stand up in a way where, let's see here. I think the pose is just, your pose is a little bit stiff. I think you can have, if you just have a little bit of dynamicness in the neck, then you can get quite far. And I feel like the clothes maybe could be even longer. I'm just thinking kind of like Tibetan monks or something like this. Just whatever makes him feel like he's not out to do trouble. But then maybe he has some contrast in his head, or in his body. Something. It shouldn't look too unfriendly here, right? So just, let's see here, we got there. And maybe his facial expression can do a lot for the way that he kind of feels, if he's trying to be zen about everything. He can still have a slightly uncomfortable expression on his things, but maybe he is kind of zen in that sense. It's a different path he's taken, right? He's on a path of peace. Just avoid anything too spiky and too weapon-like, if that's what you're trying to do. Then these kinds of things with stuff hanging on them, they seem, you know, they are the opposite of a weapon. They're drooping, they're lazy, they're sleepy, if that makes sense, right? They're falling down, they're heavy and calm, and he is calm. maybe it's something like that to help his and the clothes is heavy. Yeah, and it's not torn or something like that because he's turned a new leaf. It's a new time in his story. You know? Something like that, kind of. And you could even add like a prop if you really have to sell the idea, you know, then bring in a bird or some crap like that. Like you like if you have a story you want to tell without writing the text and things like that, then you gotta push the visual gags to make me understand like this. And maybe he looks really evil. Maybe like, or maybe it's very clear that he was a demon. So, or what he was exactly. Let's see here. Like this kind of. Like that. Where the heck did everything go? I constantly lose everything. That's not it. Where the heck is YouTube? I just keep closing everything. That's the big problem. Is that I keep closing everything. Let's see here. Gotta go back to this thing there. There we go. Okay, now I'm reading your comments here. That's an umbrella. Okay, I mean, if it's an umbrella, either way, like it's. I would choose an image, figure out what works from there. Then if he has an umbrella, then put it somewhere. You know, you can also put it here in front or something. You know, put the umbrella there or something if it's very clear what that is. The expression is wonderful advice. I hadn't thought of that. I stuck to references when I made his face. Yeah, I can understand that round objects for the welcoming feeling. The clothes were intentionally torn to show him be more rugged. Yes, but the ruggedness also adds to his kind of like his more negative demeanor, right? And I'm doing everything I can to make it clear, right? And then I have to sell it. You know, I'm just overdoing it as much as I can, because when you don't know, when you're completely off, and you just like, what do you see, right? You ask somebody what they see, then they have to get a lot from not knowing anything. So there you want to be very obvious, unfortunately. Like, I think that's one of the big things you learn, is just how incredibly obvious you often have to be. Like that. And the purple skin, definitely. And, you know, he could then have stuff that still makes him look evil. You know, he can look evil. You know, he can have some features that makes him look like he was somebody different. Maybe he had, maybe he has weird scars or something in his things, which makes him look more demonic or something. And then the contrast all of a sudden to, like, maybe show that he was violent or something. If that's the thing, he was violent at some point. But now he's put on a new persona. And he's even willing to talk to a bird. A green bird, apparently. There we go. See what I mean? I hope that that kind of makes sense. That's how I would do it. It's a lot of story to be able to tell in one thing. Wouldn't the scars conflict with the whole set? No, I mean, so yes, the scars conflict with the scent thing, and that's also the point. The point is that he was like that, right? If that's the story, he was like that, but now he's trying to do something different. So this is kind of telling the story that this was in the past. If this was in the now, then the clothes would also be torn. That shows that he's still about his like rugged nature, but he was scarred, but now he's doing this thing and stuff like that. Right? It could tell that. That's how I would read it, kind of, and get closer to the feeling of what's going on. Where if you had the opposite, if he was very clean but his clothes are rugged, then yes, he could look poor, but he could also look like he's still a little bit violent. So it's one way. Maybe there's a different way of doing it, like to show the past or something like that. But I think that's a way of doing it. And I think clothes is obviously very symbolic, so you can use that as a way to say that, okay, he's changed, that he's now trying to do something different. Maybe he has a book or something to read to children, or a scroll or something to kind of tell them about how things really are, or something like that. Yeah, I think that's kind of what I got for now. I hope that works for you. Yes, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Merum 0SS. That's exactly right. Probably. Best of luck. I hope this was useful. I still think there's lots of stuff you can do there. Try with the posing and stuff, and I can give you some feedback on the character proportions, but that would take longer and those things. I think just try to figure out posing and exactly what would represent the character correctly. Think about those things a little bit. Then I mean, it's hard enough as it is just modeling a character. It's big work, but try that. Cool. I think we're kind of reaching the end of the stream. I'm sorry I didn't get to everyone, but just letting everyone know that I'm gonna be doing a part 2 of the feedback critique stream on Saturday. What day would that be? The 16th. 16th. Right, at 20 Central European time. That's where I am. I'm gonna aim for this time. You'll have to wait and see until the. Please make it larger. Yeah, we'll do it here. There we go. There. Hopefully that's big enough. There we go. Yep, there we go. Saturday, 16th, 20 Central European time. And we have to end every single stream with tax evasion tips. Damn it. Tax evasion tip. Tax evasion tip. These are the hard ones. Don't know tax evasion tips. Yeah, for some reason we've been doing them every single stream, and now it's just a tradition. Cool, Dakota, post some stuff. You need help finding shapes. Okay, we'll figure something out. Sounds good. But now we just need to hit the tax evasion tips. Damn it. Also, people, if you have buy yourself an island. Easy peasy. Yeah, don't buy a house in Denmark regarding taxation. It's yeah, exactly. It's the stream tradition. Also, people, if you have other ideas for other things we could do on the stream, then think about it. Please write it. I would love to hear your feedback. You can write it on the Discord. You can write it here, wherever. That would be great. Tax evasion tips. How do you avoid taxes? I'm gonna be giving like the same. If you look, I'm not supposed to look it up. That's not the tradition. I have to come up with something stupid. Tax evasion tips. Tax. Oh, I have a tax evasion tip for you. You have to 100%. There's a person out there in life who's called tax. Just it's gotta exist. There's gotta be somebody out there called TAX. You go over to that guy or woman or whoever it is. You yell really mean things at them. Then they come charging at you, and then you dodge. Tax evasion tips. You evaded tax. That's a pretty good one. That might have been the best one so far. All the other ones were terrible. This one was the best one. So there you go. Tax evasion tips. I'll hopefully see a bunch of you guys on at 8 o'clock on Saturday. And this was great, guys. Thank you all. I'm gonna probably keep working, but not on this stuff. So see you all real soon. Bye for now. Thanks for watching, and see you.